Hello, I'm Dr. Don, and I'm here to give you some tips on how to live your life more effectively. Today I want to talk with you about your desire to suffer. If anybody would have told me 25 years ago that I loved to suffer, I would have told them they were crazy. Why would anybody in their right mind make themselves suffer? Well, sometimes we aren't in our right mind. You will remember that I talked to you in another segment about how we are all half crazy, meaning that we have a lot of misinformation in our brain that sometimes gets into our decision making and hurts us. Some of that craziness in your brain is what gives you the desire to make yourself suffer. We all have it. I'm sure you know somebody that you'd never ask how they are, because if you do, they'll tell you and tell you and tell you. They love to talk about their suffering. The only difference in any of us is the degree to which we like to suffer. If you think you don't love to suffer, you just don't know yourself very well. What are some of the ways we make ourselves suffer? I don't know you, so I can't tell you how you make yourself suffer. But I can share with you some of the things I have made myself suffer, and also some of the ways I see other people making themselves suffer. One of the ways that is rampant in our society is being overweight. Statistics tell us that about 2/3 of our adults in our society and about 1/3 of our children are overweight. I know this way of suffering from personal experience. When I went to college, I weighed in at 248 pounds and didn't have an unwanted ounce of fat on me. Because I played a lot of sports, I was in very good physical shape. At about age 30, I began putting on weight, and over the years weighed close to 400 pounds. In my 40s, my doctor told me that if I didn't do something about my weight, I would have terrible problems with my legs and joints in later years. I didn't pay a lot of attention to him. After all, I was still in pretty good shape. In my spare time, I was a PIAA official and a basketball official, both in football and basketball, doing 1 or 2 games a week. As an official, I would have to take a rigorous physical each year. The doctor would always say, "You're in great shape, except you're overweight." On the football field, I chose to be head linesman because he's a guy that does a lot of running. While I thought I was getting good exercise, what I was really actually doing was pounding my joints to pieces as I ran up and down the field or court. As of today, I have had 4 hip and 2 knee replacements. What a great way to suffer. Oh, I tried losing weight during those years, and I've been on practically every diet that ever came along. I would lose 40, then gain 30, lose 50, then gain 60. It was not until about 5 years ago, when I began looking at the ways I make myself suffer, that I realized how much suffering I was causing myself by being overweight. As part of my commitment to take better charge of my life and reduce the ways I make myself suffer, I decided to lose weight. I rejoined Weight Watchers, but this time I was armed with my commitment to stop making myself suffer. I have lost over 100 pounds and still plan to lose another 50. How did being overweight make me suffer? In addition to my joint replacements, I developed shortness of breath, high blood pressure, arthritis, diabetes, just to list a few. Today, these are either gone completely or well under control. There may be many reasons for being overweight, but behind all of them is at least a willingness, if not a desire, to suffer. Now let's look at some of the other ways we can make ourselves suffer. Smoking, abusing alcohol, and other drugs are all great ways to make yourself suffer. But we don't like to look at it that way, do we? We love to con ourselves by thinking that the things that we are doing to make ourselves suffer are really fun. A number of years ago, our son John brought home a bunch of his buddies after celebrating New Year's Eve. I heard them coming in about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I heard somebody really sick throwing up on our front lawn. Later that day, I said to John, "It sounded like someone was really sick last night." "Yes," he said, "it was Bruce." I said, "What happened to Bruce?" He said, "He was having too much fun." Now think about that for a moment. He's sick as a dog because he was having too much fun. We really do love to con ourselves, don't we? Someone has pointed out that many of the negative things we do to our body are like slow suicides. It's like holding a gun to your head and waiting 30 or 40 or 50 years for the bullet to pass through. Also, when you develop a dependence or addiction to food, alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs, who's really running your life? We've been talking about physical suffering, but there are also many ways to make yourself suffer emotionally. Look at the process of worrying. You can literally make yourself sick by worrying. In fact, we even have an idiomatic expression for it. I'm worried sick. Carrying grudges and the lack of forgiveness is also an excellent way to suffer. When you don't forgive, you not only suffer when the incident occurred, but you can suffer every time you think about it. Forgiveness is for the purpose of helping you reduce suffering by clearing your mind of the negative things that have happened in the past. Another way we suffer emotionally is by the meanings we put to the events that take place in our life. We don't always have a lot of control over the events surrounding us, but we can have a great deal of control over the meanings we put to those events. We have to stop and think, do I want to put a meaning to this event that makes me suffer, or can I find another meaning which is more pleasant? We've talked about a few common things that we use to make ourselves suffer, but I'm sure there are many more. You need to look at your own life and discover for yourself the ways you make yourself suffer. You may even find some ways that are unique to you and are not common in other people. The point is, find them and do everything you can to eliminate or reduce them if you want to have a more enjoyable life. I've often wondered where this universal desire for suffering comes from. There are probably many sources, but let's just look at a few possibilities. Some of us have been given a lot of messages that suffering has value, and the more we suffer, the better person we are. Some of these messages may have come from our religious faith. Many religious leaders have suffered for their beliefs, so it's easy for us to conclude that if we want to be like them, we must suffer also. There have been a number of religious organizations and groups who purposely make themselves suffer. Their belief is that the more you suffer, the better your reward will be in the life hereafter. Indeed, some of the terrorism in the world today is based on this belief. The symbol for Christianity is the cross, a symbol of suffering. While this enables Christians to remember the suffering of Christ, the main message of the New Testament is love, not suffering. Jesus instructed us to love God first. This means loving life, since life is the gift that God has given to us. Next, we are to love ourselves, and then we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. There is at least one other way, an important way, why we may love to make ourselves suffer. We are willing to endure the suffering of these painful behaviors in order to gain powerful control of the world around us. Why do we want to gain control of the world around us? To get what we want. The best way to get what we want is to take charge of your own life instead of trying to control others to do it for us. So to sum things up, the events of life will give you enough opportunities to suffer. You don't have to create any suffering for yourself. This is Dr. Don encouraging you to take more control of your life for a better tomorrow.